Good afternoon. I call to order the Health, Education, and Welfare Committee meeting. Today is September 14th, 2022. The time is 2:00 p.m. and I will ask Representative Ann Marshall to do our invocation. You will all stand if you're able. Thank you.
Let us pray. Creator God, we just come to you today and just ask for your leading us and to guide us as we make decisions today, and that we just ask relevant questions that will move this nation forward. And in the coming days, we just ask that you just continue to just bless us and just continue to lead us in all the things that we say and all the things that we do and in the ways we conduct ourselves. And we just ask all these things in your name. Amen.
So, Representative Marshall. Roll call, Legislative Clerk April Lindsay.
Mayor Crawford. Present. Joyce Steer.
Lega.
Leonard Gouge.
Here.
Robert Huff.
Present.
Anna Marshall.
Present.
Madam Chair, you got 5 present and 0 absent.
5 present and 0 absent constitutes a quorum. All business conducted will be official. We next have the approval of minutes of August the 10th, 2022. I will entertain a motion when the committee is ready.
Madam Chair.
Yes, Representative Marshall.
I make a motion for the approval of the minutes for August the 10th, 2022 with any necessary changes.
We have a motion from Representative Marshall to approve the minutes of August the 10th, 2022. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Representative Gouge. Roll call vote, please.
Anna Marshall.
Yes.
Leonard Gouge.
Yes.
Robert Huff.
Yes.
Mary Crawford.
Yes.
Madam Chair, you got 4 in favor and 0 against.
4 in favor and 0 against. The minutes of August the 10th, 2022 are approved. First order of business, we have the Rural Fire Department applications. It's from Olive Volunteer Fire Department. Do we have a representative from that department? Thank you. Would you please
Good afternoon.
explain
How are
your
you?
request, please? We're good. Thank you.
My name is Jason Dobson. I am the fire chief at the Olive Volunteer Fire Department, and today I have brought with me firefighter Matt LaFoon. Today we come before you that we have submitted our rural fire department application for communication equipment. I'm not for sure how you would like, if you want me to read all this, or we brought something we'd like to demonstrate for you, showing what we're looking to purchase.
You have something to show us?
We do.
Yeah, you can just.
May we?
Yeah. Is that the equipment?
Yes.
Okay, yes. With each other.
And even with this on the back of a truck, door loud, normal noise, you don't. They are a two-way radio system. It will still work between each other, but it will also let us use this radio to talk to other agencies or other people throughout and get clear communication through that. The ones that we're looking at trying to add is second outburst truck. Work off the same principle, same style headset, work with each other. Fire, they're within each other, they'd be able to hear each other like that. Then the driver would have one of these adapters that he'd be able to plug into.
So you're just buying two? Purchase two?
Something we've recently learned. We've recently received a water rescue boat out on the water with the motor running. We've learned that we can also use these while we're on the boat for water rescues and stuff. So it could be used for multiple reasons.
Okay. Okay, thank you. Are there any questions from the committee? You have a statement? Did you have a comment? Go ahead.
The price that you have listed here, is that for two or is that one?
No, the price is
For two?
with all the connections.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you. Are you ready?
Representative Marshall?
Are you ready to entertain a motion?
Yes, I'll entertain a motion if we're ready.
Madam Chair, I make a motion that we fund the Olive Rural Fire Department at $1,900.
You're changing the amount.
It's 1,900 on here, isn't it? What's the amount on the back side?
16.
What's the amount? For 60. Is that the correct price? $1,697. Okay.
Okay. We have a motion to accept the bid for $1,697 for these headsets. Is there a second?
Second.
Second from Representative Gouge. Roll call vote, please.
Anna Marshall,
Yes.
Senator Gouge,
Yes.
Robert Huff,
Yes.
Mary Crawford.
Yes.
Madam Chair, you got 4 in favor and 0 against.
4 in favor and 0 against. That request is approved. Thank you. Thank you for all you do. Our next item of business is TR 22-135, a tribal resolution of the Muskogee Creek Nation authorizing the principal chief to execute an amended agreement with the Indian Health Service and supporting the assumption of remaining tribal shares from the Indian Health Service's Wewoka unit. Sponsor Leonard Gouge.
Madam Chair, I make a motion to approve.
We have a motion to approve from Representative Gouge. Is there a second?
Second, Representative Huff.
Second from Representative Ann Marshall.
Madam Chair, is there anyone from Health to speak on this?
Mr. Terry.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you, committee. We have discussed this issue in the past about our evaluation of assuming our tribal shares from Wewoka, which comes up to about $4 million. As we've stated in the past, we've had close communications with Admiral Watts at the Indian Health Service to ensure that it was not going to negatively impact the Wewoka service unit. There won't be any layoffs. There won't be any people losing their jobs. And I know that another public concern was that our citizens would not be able to go to Wewoka, and that is not accurate. Our citizens can still go to Wewoka. The only difference is going to be that going forward, when one of our citizens needs a contract health referral, it will come to Creek Nation, and we can speed that up. And we know that out of the $4 million that could be spent on our citizens, that only about $700,000 worth of approvals has come from Wewoka on our citizens. So we know that we're going to expand care for the folks down in the Tuckabutchee district. And I know that in your packet, we gave you a lot of tables, and we have Ms. Tara Branson on the call if you guys have any questions that you would like from me or Ms. Branson to answer concerning the tables.
Thank you, Mr. Terry. Are there any questions for Mr. Terry or for Ms. Branson Thomas?
Madam Chair, I have one question.
Okay. Representative Gouge, you have the floor.
When this money comes out of the other clinic, is there a timeline of when you'll be able to establish another clinic in Holdenville?
So we've been diligently looking for property down in Holdenville. We think that we've identified that. It's going through some real estate analysis right now. And so just as soon as we get that up and going, we may be able to throw some sort of temporary modular building in place while we're building something down there. But typically from the time that we start a process, it usually takes anywhere from 12 to 18 months to get a permanent facility if we build it.
Good, thank you, because I received a few calls about timelines, and you answered that. Thank you.
Thank you, Representative Gouge. Are there any other questions for Mr. Terry from the committee? Any questions from council in attendance or online? Representative Golden, you have a question? Excuse me, Ms. Golden, could you use the microphone, please?
Ms. Golden said that there was a DHS building that was brought to our attention down in Holdenville. It's not, it wasn't ours for our clinic. Not that I'm aware of, unless Ms. Marshall or
not.
someone.
No, there's other plans for that building.
Yes.
Are there any other questions from other council in attendance or online? Hearing none. Roll call vote, please.
Leonard Gouge,
Yes.
Robert Huff,
Yes.
Mary Crawford,
Yes.
Anna Marshall.
Yes.
Madam Chair, you got 4 in favor and 0 against.
4 in favor and 0 against. TR 22-135 is passed. TR 22-136, a tribal resolution of the Muskogee Creek Nation confirming the nomination of Bruce Douglas to serve on the College of the Muskogee Nation Board of Regents. Sponsor, Anna Marshall.
Motion for due pass.
We have a motion from Representative Marshall for due pass. Is there a second?
Second.
Second from Representative Huff. Mr. Douglas is in the building. Would you come down and say a few words?
Yes, Jay, good afternoon. Thank you for
afternoon.
having me.
Mm-hmm. Give the floor.
Pardon me?
Want to tell us about yourself or?
Okay. Again, my name is Bruce Douglas. I'm of the Bird Clan, and my tribal town is New Yaka. I grew up in the Okima area, in Mason. I've been in public ed for 26 years. Been in higher ed, gotten higher ed for 2 years, so I've been in education for 28 years. I currently serve as the superintendent for Midway Public School. I am currently in my 8th year as the superintendent, and I have fulfilled one regent seat term. I was appointed previously before I was became a board member. I was appointed and served the remainder of a term for the late Ramona Mason. So I've actually been on the Board of Regents for almost 6 years, which I'm very proud and privileged to serve on.
Thank you, Mr. Douglas. Are there questions from the committee for Mr. Douglas? Or
Madam Chair.
comments? Yes, Representative Marshall.
I have said I'm the ex officio to the Board of Regents, and I have observed Mr. Douglas in his capacity as a regent to the college, and I wholeheartedly support his nomination. Thank you.
Thank you.
Muddo.
Are there any questions from any other committee? Are there questions from council in attendance or online for Mr. Douglas? Hearing none, roll call vote, please.
Anna Marshall.
Yes.
Leonard Gouge,
Yes.
Robert Huff,
Yes.
Mary Crawford. Madam Chair, you got 4 in favor and 0 against.
4 in favor and 0 against. TR 22-136 is passed. And Mr. Douglas, if we could ask you to be here Saturday, September 24th for pre-agenda, and you can speak to the full council at that time.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank
Mado.
you. Thank you, Mado. Next item is NCA 22-095, a law of the Muskogee Creek Nation authorizing the expenditure of the U.S. Department of the Interior Living Languages Program, grant program funds for the benefit of the Muskogee Language Department. Sponsor Leonard Gouge.
Madam Chair, make a motion to pass.
We have a motion for due pass from Representative Gouge. Is there a second? Second from Representative Crawford. Discussion.
Yes, Madam Chair. Is there anyone from the Language Department that can speak on this?
Judy Montiel.
Yes, good afternoon, everyone. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, we can hear you. Thank you.
Okay, all right, thank you. This is a one-year grant in order for us to hire a virtual language instructor. It will allow us to hire a web designer to allow us to have all of our resources housed on a language website. And so we're very anxious to get this project started. It is a 12-month grant. However, we are approximately 49 days into the approval of this grant. And so we're very excited to get this project up and going.
Thank you, ma'am. Are there any questions for Ms. Montiel? Are there any questions from the council in attendance or online?
I'd like one comment.
Yes, we have a comment by Representative Gouge. Go
The
ahead.
language program is a very enthusiastic group because they're trying to make every attempt in every way to improve the language program and perpetuate that into the schools and everywhere else, even into the web now. So I'm very excited that they're trying to get something started. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Representative Gouge. Any other comments or questions? If not, roll call vote, please.
Leonard Gouge.
Yes.
Robert Huff.
Yes.
Mary Crawford.
Yes.
Anna Marshall.
Yes.
Madam Chair, you got 4 in favor and 0 against.
4 in favor and 0 against. NCA 22-095 is passed. Next item, NCA 22-096, a law of the Muskogee Creek Nation authorizing an appropriation to the Muskogee Creek Nation Veterans Affairs Services Office to participate in the National Native American Veterans Memorial Dedication Ceremony located in Washington, D.C. Sponsor, Leonard Gouge.
Madam Chair, make a motion to pass.
We have a motion for a due pass from Representative Gouge. Is there a second?
I second.
Second from Representative Marshall. Discussion.
Madam Chair, I think I have somebody here from the Veterans Affairs Office.
Mr. Wind.
Good afternoon, Madam Chair, committee members. This is a appropriation that we want to take 10 of our veterans to Washington, D.C. to participate in the formal dedication of the National Native American Veterans Memorial. Can you hear me better now?
Yes.
This is what we want to do is a proposal to take 10 of our Muskogee Creek veterans to attend the memorial and participate in the formal dedication of the National Native American Veterans Memorial. It was postponed last year. It's supposed to be done this year, but it's quite an honor. There'll be a procession, and this is something we've been talking about for just a little while, but we wanted to present this, and I think it's not only an honor for us to be there, but I think it's very important that we, as one of the native tribes that have always fought for this country, be present for this memorial.
Thank you, sir. Are there questions for Mr. Wind from the committee?
I have a question.
Representative Marshall.
When did you say that this was going to take place?
It'll take place November 11th.
Oh, okay.
We will leave here November 10th, and then The event is 11th. We thought we want to stay over the day after to allow the veterans to be able to see some of the museums in the wall and everything, and we'll come back the following Sunday.
Okay, okay, thank you.
Any other questions from the committee? I have one. Have you already selected the veterans who will go?
No, ma'am. We won't do that until after we made sure we were approved. Then we will put an application out for them to apply for it, and then we'll select the veterans from the applications.
Oh, okay, all right,
Okay.
thank you. Any questions from the council in attendance or online? Representative Golden.
What would be the criteria?
We're requiring or wanting them to be able-bodied because we'll have to march for 7/10 of a mile. This time around, we're not being able to take companions for the short time frame. So in the past, the office has been able to take the World War II and the Korean veterans. We're kind of looking to Vietnam veterans and maybe some of the Desert Storm veterans, ma'am.
Any other questions? Thank you, Ms. Golden. Hearing none, roll call vote, please.
Leonard Gouge,
Yes.
Robert Huff,
Yes.
Mary Crawford,
Yes.
Anna Marshall.
Yes.
Madam Chair, you got 4 in favor and 0 against.
4 in favor and 0 against. NCA 22-096 is passed, and we will send it to BF&J for funding source.
Mado.
No. Next is NCA 22-097, a law of the Muskogee Creek Nation amending MCNCA Title 22, Chapter 9, entitled Emergency Management Authority. Sponsor, Anna Marshall.
Motion do pass.
Motion for due pass from Representative Marshall. Is there a second?
Second.
Second from Representative Mary Crawford.
I believe Bobby
Discussion.
Howard's here.
Good afternoon, Madam Chairman,
Good afternoon.
Council. So basically, my office is a bylaw budget. It has not been changed since 2007, though the requirements have changed dramatically since then. The big piece is the National Council approved the National Flood Insurance Program for the nation, which created the Floodplain Advisory Council. So all properties purchased by the nation now has to go in front of that council to ensure that they meet all the new floodplain requirements. We also have the ability to, our facilities that it may look as though they're in a flood zone. I will use Glenpool as an example. The 2 buildings there, we were being charged $20,000 a year in insurance premiums. Now, since we have our own advisory and we can do the elevation studies and get them stamped by FEMA, we pay $1,200. So those savings, right now, we have 2, 4, 6, 10 buildings. So we've saved already $200,000 this year alone, which will be a savings every year from now on those 10 buildings alone. We have a current project that we're waiting to fund in Okemah for the housing area. And you'll notice in the budget change, this is all contract money. There are no funds to change salaries, supplies, anything else. This full amount goes into contractual services so that we can have the engineering studies completed to save the nation funds, as well as allow us to reach out and get FEMA dollars as well. Currently, we have 4 projects going on the Arkansas River for Riverwalk, the casino, and it's about $47 million worth of projects in mitigation alone. Any questions?
Thank you, sir. Are there any questions from the committee? Are there any questions from council in attendance or online? Hearing none, roll call vote, please.
Anna Marshall,
Yes.
Leonard Gouge,
Yes.
Robert Huff,
Yes.
Mary Crawford.
Yes.
Madam Chair, you got 4 in favor and 0 against.
4 in favor and 0 against. NCA 22-097 is passed. NCA 22-098, a law of the Muskogee Creek Nation authorizing the expenditure of grant funds awarded from the Department of Health and Human Services Administration for Children and Families American Rescue Plan Act Child Care Supplemental Discretionary Funds for the benefit of the Muskogee Creek Nation Office of Child Care. Sponsor Leonard Gouge.
Madam Chair, motion for due pass.
We have a motion for a due pass from Representative Gouge. Is there a second?
Second.
Second from Representative Marshall. Discussion.
Madam Chair, I think there's someone here from Children and Family Services.
Children and Family Services. Good afternoon.
All right. Good afternoon. I'm Yolanda Lewis. I'm with the Office of Child Care. My name's Yolanda Lewis, and I'm with the Office of Child Care.
Okay, you have the floor. Thank you.
We will be using the funds to help with like the direct services, to help with our licensed tribal child care providers. We do quarterly PPE care packages. And then we also be using it to continue covering our essential employees, helping pay their child care and their co-pays. And we're also working on the Okema Child Care Center, doing a new construction for that center, making it larger so we're able to accept more children.
Madam Chair, I have a question.
Yes, Representative Gouge, you have the floor.
I like the idea you're planning on new construction. I do have some people calling me if there's a potential for other sites, but particularly around Jinx area.
We're working on the Okema and then Eufaula and Wetumpka sites right now. So those are the existing ones, but we do have future, like in the future, of adding new child care centers.
Thank you.
Are there any other questions from the committee? Any questions from council in attendance? Representative Golden.
Thank you, Madam Chair. In Okema, you're talking about construction. Is that the reason you need more space and you can't accept babies anymore?
We're able to only accept so much, so it'll help expand and be able to take twice as many children at that center. Yes.
Any other questions from council in attendance or online?
Chairman Deere, this is Thomasine.
Yes, go ahead, Representative Osborne.
Quick question. The facilities that are going to be newly constructed in these three areas, are they going to be the same prototype? Meaning, are they going to be the same size buildings?
No, they're going to be twice the size of what we're currently having. Like the Okema Center only has 3 classrooms. We're going to be expanding it to do 6 classrooms.
Okay, so all of the sites, are they going to all be the same size?
Yes.
Thank you. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Representative Osborne. Are there any other questions? Hearing none, roll call vote, please.
Leonard Gouge,
Yes.
Robert Huff,
Yes.
Mary Crawford,
Yes.
Anna Marshall.
Yes.
Madam Chair, you got 4 in favor and 0 against.
4 in favor and 0 against. NCA 22-098 is passed. We are now down to other business. We will have
Madam Chair,
yes,
this is Representative Robert Huff.
yes.
I would
you have
like
the
to
floor.
add NCA 22-104 to the agenda today.
NCA 22-104.
104.
Okay, we have a motion to add NCA 22-0104-104 to the agenda in other business. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Representative Gow. Roll call vote, please.
Robert Huff,
Yes.
Mary Crawford,
Yes.
Anna Marshall,
Yes.
Leonard Gouch.
Yes.
Madam Chair, you got 4 in favor and 0 against.
4 in favor and 0 against. NCA 22-104 is added to the agenda. NCA 22-104 is a law of the Muskogee Creek Nation appropriating funds for the Muskogee Creek Nation Veterans Affairs Office to purchase motorcycles excuse me, for a military funeral and detail unit.
Motion to pass.
Motion for Representative Huff to do pass. Is there a second? Is there a second?
Second.
Second from Representative Gowd. Discussion.
Madam Chair, I believe the sponsor is online, and also Mr. Grover Wynn is there also.
Okay, Mr. Grover Wind is coming down to the microphone, and you can introduce the other two. Do you have somebody online? Oh, I'm sorry.
It was just,
Sponsor is Representative Thomasine Yahola Osborne. Did you have a comment, Representative Osborne?
No, ma'am. I would have introduced Mr. Wynn.
Mr. Wind, okay. Come forward.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you.
Madam Chair and committee again, this is a law that we are coming before you for. It's started some time back. Actually, the law is to help Lighthorse with us in our funeral detail. How it started was during COVID. We had several funerals that we needed escort for our veterans, and with all that was going on, they were spread so thin they weren't able to do any escort for us. Reaching out to Chief Phillips, we asked if maybe there was some way that we could help that would be able to get us escorts for the funerals. Part of this reason, Madam Chair, is that it's such an honor to take our veterans to last mile, the final mile. And that's one of the reasons that we initiated and began this Muskogee Riders. They are Muskogee veterans, native riders to escort our veterans that final mile. But in doing so many times in an escort, if we go through a city or a town or an intersection, we obey the law, so we have to stop. Whereas some of the escort goes on or so forth, but more so than that, many times it's a safety issue. If we have the Lighthorse on the motorcycles, well, the reason we went motorcycles on this is because so oftentimes their cars are tied up in different situations throughout the reservation. They can't utilize those vehicles, but the motorcycles will be purchased strictly for the funeral detail or details, escort details. And it's a way not only to help the Lighthorse free up to keep their vehicles free, but it's also a way to ensure the safety of our Muskogee Riders. Our Muskogee Riders are a volunteer group. We don't pay them gas. We don't give them anything. They, in their honor, their need or want to honor our fallen veterans or deceased veterans. And so I talked with Chief Phillips, and if you'd like, he's here with me if you'd like to talk with him. But they put together a list of several, I think 15 or 20 of their officers that would volunteer to ride these. So it wouldn't be that we'd be pulling any of the officers from any of their duties. They would be just there to supplement and ensure the safety of our Muskogee funeral detail riders. GSA was able to go out and get several bids, and the Harley was does everybody have a copy of these? Sorry.
We're talking about the legislation.
Are there questions? Oh,
Or was that the bids?
You mean,
Is that the bid?
you mean the bids, these? Yeah, I had that.
Yeah, they're in here.
it's the legislation. Yeah, we've already got it.
But it's a need that we have, that we've, again, not only the honor of escorting our veterans in final ways, but to ensure safety for our Muskogee Riders. It's If Chief Phillips, again, he and I started talking about this several months ago when he wasn't able to help us. We sat down and had a visit about it, and this is a way to ensure that we can have safety with our funeral escorts, and we don't take away from any of their units that they need for service in our reservation.
Any comment? Thank you, sir. Are there any questions for Mr. Wind?
Madam Chair, I have a
Yes,
question.
Representative Marshall.
Was this legislation brought before the council last month?
Yes.
Okay, and it was brought by Light Horse, correct?
Yes.
Okay. I have a question for Chief Phillips. I think one of the concerns that the council had raised at the last meeting, and this has nothing to do with the motorcycles, but the question is there was concern about the radios that y'all have that are outdated. Have those been replaced, or have there been bids put out on those?
I'll defer that to my radio guy.
Sure. Whoever has the answer.
We are currently working on getting newer style radios compared to what we've had in the past. We're also in the works testing some new radios and working on trying to get a grant for those as well. We just need to test these radios to see if they will fit what we need for our area. We're kind of like on a fence. We can work one way up north, and down south we're a different way until we kind of bridge that gap, but we're in a hard spot right now.
Okay. Sir, I didn't hear your name.
Keith Jackson.
Keith Jackson. Okay, thank you.
So the nation will be safe with a radio system at some point.
At some point, yes.
Okay. Hopefully quicker than later.
Exactly.
Okay, thank you. And then Mr. Wynn, so do some of your volunteers, are they going to have to be trained with these motorcycles, or is it something that they'll just be able to go and do?
No, there will be training. There will be training. Some have already had, but they will be training as I recall. And Chief Phillips, would you like to answer that?
Yes, we've allocated that in our budget. We got a line item for their training and up to 6 officers for their motorcycles and their uniforms in our budget.
Okay.
But yes, they will be trained. Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Representative Marshall. I have a question. So just to clarify, for the current time, this is just going to be for veterans, but eventually it'll be for all funerals. Is that correct?
Yes, ma'am. Initially, it's just going to be for our veterans. Chief Phillips and I talked about that, and there'll be situations where if they need the motorcycles for the civilians, yes, that's a possibility. But initially, it's all going to be just for the veterans.
Okay. Thank you. Are there other questions from
Actually,
the
I have
committee?
a question.
Yes, Representative Gouge.
I appreciate the idea of the motorcycles for purchase, but one question is a funding source. The other question is, in this letter it says you will maintain the storage and maintenance of these motorcycles?
Yes, we have talked to GSA about storage. We initially talked with Light Horse about storage. They have storage. They have a place where they can store it under lock and key, and also be able to have it where it's accessible to any of the volunteer Light Horse if they get a call. But yes, we've worked out with storage with GSA. And would you want to touch on that storage?
Yes, we discussed that with GSA about storing the motorcycles out of the weather, inclement weather, like for the winter times, winter months, so they'll be out of the elements. And the maintenance, I believe it's like 5 years, 50,000 miles, or 10-year, 10,000 mile warranty, so they'll be in for routine maintenance under that.
Right, thank you.
Yes, sir.
Ms. Crawford, you have a question?
Will the Light Horse Patrol have access to these motorcycles?
No,
in their
ma'am.
Daily activities?
It'll be strictly for you'd like for patrol and everything. No, ma'am. It'll be strictly for the funeral detail or details.
Thank you. Thank you, Madam
Thank you,
Chair.
Representative Crawford. Are there any other questions from council? Yes, Kyle.
apologize. Our friends with the Attorney General's office had not had a chance to look at this, and I simply just didn't have the time to send out some inquiries. The only question that I really have, and I think Grover, I think this is probably for you, is have we verified that insurance coverage on those bikes, if it's paid for by the nation, will cover volunteers in their use? And then if there's an accident or an injury, will our comp insurance pay for those officers while they're acting as volunteers? We just have to make sure that whatever coverage that we have takes care of. Insurance companies are wonderful about taking your premiums. They're not so good about making payments. And if we have a volunteer riding a bike and a damage occurs to the bike, I'm just concerned of whether they'll pay. But we just need to do a little bit of footwork and make sure that we're covered on insurance. And that's just my only comment. Thank you all.
Thank you, sir. So that hasn't been done. Is that correct?
Ma'am.
That hasn't been done. It
No,
hasn't
ma'am,
been
not yet.
verified.
No, ma'am. We assumed, I guess, would be yes. We'll check into it. I'll get with the AG's office and make sure that that is a problem. That is covered.
Representative
Madam Chair,
Marshall, yes.
Mr. Wynn, when do you think that you could get with the AG and find out that information?
I could do today, but I was just talking with Lighthorse here, and he says they're covered on their volunteers, right? You want to address that?
We'll add the bikes under our fleet management with all our units. And like when we volunteer for other assignments, I mean, we fall under our insurance under that as well. So we'll just absorb the bikes into that policy.
I'd like to hear what the council attorney has to say before we make a motion.
Yeah.
So, Mr. Haskins?
I think the concept is a wonderful idea. I just want to make sure that we're covered and that the individuals riding the motorcycles are covered against any harm or damage or injury that they may cause. Having ridden motorcycles most of my life, I know there's just a lot of potential risk that goes along with that. And risk management, probably we need to verify with them. And I think Chief Phillips is probably right that it covers volunteers, but this may be something a little bit different than volunteering for a different assignment. This is something in which they're volunteering for an action that's not normal or customary within Lighthorse and their daily activities. So this should not be anything that keeps us from being able to move forward. We just need to make sure that either our existing coverage would provide for it, or alternatively, if we need to get a supplemental policy or a special rider, we just need to make sure that we do things as are business appropriate.
Madam Chair, Ms. Representative Huft.
Who was that?
Representative Huff.
Madam Chair.
Floor,
Yeah.
yes.
Can we ask Mr. Wynn to have the information to us by next week before if it passes before it goes for the full council?
Yes, sir. I'll do that.
Thank you.
With AG.
Thank you.
Okay.
So, Madam Chair, I'll just make a motion that if things can get done between now and council meeting, that this be postponed until September the 24th, because that's the council meeting, right? Do you think that would give you enough time to get the risk management that Mr. Haskins talked about? We'll go ahead and pass it today with the understanding that you'll need to get back with us and inform us of the risk management and the coverage of the volunteers.
That'll work. Okay, we have a motion on the floor. Are there any other questions? Representative Golden.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I just wanted to ask if Mr. Wind is familiar with the Patriot Guard, the volunteers that do this already? And how would this Native group interact or work with them? Because they're all volunteer and they have their own motorcycles.
That is actually where, this is not a new ideal. I am familiar with Patriot Guard. I've been involved with some of their rides for some of our veterans. Facts about it, they rode for one of our veterans several years ago, and that's where I seen where it was just it's such an honor for us. And I just figured the natives in our own unit would be, I don't know, just native ways are different ways in many ways. So yes, ma'am, I am familiar with them, and I kind of got, like I said, this is not a new ideal. I've seen them ride.
Thank you. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Representative.
Madam Chair, point of order.
I'm sorry. Go ahead, Representative Marshall.
We have a motion on the floor. We have a motion on the floor.
Okay, back to the motion. Ready for a roll call vote, please.
Robert Huff.
Madam Chair, question, are we voting on Mr. Marshall's postponement?
No.
Okay, bring the main motion, right?
Yes, that's
Okay.
correct.
Yes, yes.
Mary Crawford.
Yes.
Anna Marshall.
Yes.
Leonard Gouch.
Yes.
Madam Chair, you got 4 in favor and 0 against.
4 in favor and 0 against. NCA 22-01004 is passed, and it will be sent to BF&J for funding source, and we'll wait on that information too before the council meeting.
All right. Thank you, Madam Chair and Committee.
Thank you. Is there any other business? Okay, we're down to discussion. We will have an update on Indian Child Welfare Act. Director of Children and Family Services, Ms. Ann Davis. If you will come forward, please.
Good afternoon. Thank you for allowing Children and Family Services to present this afternoon. I am, it's been it's not been a year yet. I came in December of 2021 as the director. And so it has certainly been a busy year for me. It's been a learning year, but I appreciate the opportunity to serve in this capacity. My name is Ann Davis, and I'm the director. I have previously, I have worked for the Department of Human Services. I have worked for the Osage Nation, and really since 1999, I have worked in one way or another with Indian child welfare, either through a tribe or in my role with the Department of Human Services as a tribal coordinator. So it is really an honor to be here before you. So as I said, it's been quite a year. I feel like I'm still learning a lot of things about my role. Currently, we have 5 different programs under the Children and Family Services Administration. We have our Family Protection Team, which is responsible for responding to referrals of child abuse and neglect, and then completing investigations and making recommendations as to what the dispositions of those are. We have our state reunification team, which is responsible for those cases involving Muskogee Creek children involved in the state court system throughout Oklahoma, and making sure that Muskogee families receive what they need and that the protections of the Indian Child Welfare Act are provided. We also have our Tribal Reunification Services team, which is responsible for taking care of those children and families that are involved with the Muskogee Nation District Court. So we also have our Promoting Safe and Stable Families program, which is responsible for providing services to those families that will help in preventing them from coming into custody, hopefully, and also working with families when children are being reunified or at the point where reunification is going to occur. We also have the certification, placement, resource, and training program, which is really our foster care group. So that team is responsible for recruiting and assessing and licensing families to provide care for our children that are involved with the court system, whether it's through the Muskogee Creek Nation District Court or whether it's through state court. So those are our 5 teams that exist currently. We are hoping to be able to add the additional teams of having a Title IV-E program. We are currently working on developing and implementing a Title IV-E program that will allow us to receive direct 4E funds from the federal government. That is a lot of work. It's a big endeavor. We've made some progress. We have a lot of work to do. We will continue to work on that. We also hope to, well, we will be adding another program that will deal specifically with our out-of-district cases. And so those will include those cases within Oklahoma that are outside the reservation, as well as those cases that are out of state. So that is a program that will be coming under us. We also will be adding an adoption, guardianship, and permanency program that will deal with those cases in which children's their parental rights have been terminated and are moving towards adoption, or guardianship is the goal, or those children who are waiting for an identified adoptive home but whose rights have been terminated. So those will be programs that we will be adding. We certainly, over this year, have had some challenges. I think you all probably know that one of our buildings flooded in May. And so that displaced myself, our administrative staff, and our family protection team, and our tribal reunification team, who were all housed in that building. And so we have been managing, fortunately, our satellite office on Mission Street was not flooded. And so we have been alternating. We've had people telework, we've had people share space, and we found, some additional spaces throughout the grounds for some of us to work at. But that certainly has been a challenge. We're hoping to get on the other side of that. I think the building's finished. We have furniture ordered to get us started, and hoping that that will be assembled and we'll be back in the building by probably the middle of October. So that is some of our, that's a quick overview of us. I've invited my leadership to join this meeting as well. So I have program managers here if there are specific questions about our programs.
Thank you, Ms. Davis. Are there questions for Ms. Davis?
Madam Chair, I have a question.
Representative Gouge.
working with the Indian Welfare Act, inside the reservation boundaries, outside the state, across the United States, working with our Creek children once they identify that they're members of this tribe. How are you able to facilitate some cultural values in these cases?
Well, fortunately, we have a lot of Muskogee citizens who are on our staff, and so I think there's just a lot of knowledge about that. We actually also have, which we have not been able to like track down the funding yet, but the Bureau of Indian Affairs has actually given us a grant of about $8,000 to develop cultural packages to provide for our children in foster care. So I think that is just kind of an ongoing effort for our staff to make sure that children and families are connected to their culture.
Madam Chair, another question.
Thank you, Representative Gouge.
Talking about cultural values, can you pinpoint anything specifically today that you have implemented for cultural values?
May I ask my staff to help answer some of that since they're providing some direct services? May I invite my leadership staff to the front? I think that they will probably be able to provide some more specific information about. I think I'd like to invite Michelle Bender, who is our program manager for CPRT, to speak.
Hi, my name is Michelle Bender. I'm the current manager over CPRT, Certification, Placement, Recruitment, and Training. Currently, whenever we have applicants that come in and go through the certification process, what we do is send, once they become certified homes, we send them out a pack, or when we go out to do their initial visit, we bring them a packet essentially that we have created or, gone through our culture center or through our culture program to get coloring books and things like that will teach our children the Muskogee language. And that way it's a coloring book, so it's a fun activity. We also provide cookbooks that our staff has been putting together for the families so that they can also be doing culture appropriate food and then teaching the children how to prepare it as well. And then we also make sure that all of our families have invitations to the Completing the Circle event, which is a cultural event that the state puts on every year. We also invite our families to any cultural events that are going on here at the Muskogee Nation.
Rebecca Fish is our program manager for our tribal reunification group, which cares for our tribal custody children.
Good afternoon. I'm relatively new with the tribe. I've only been here since the end of April. For my staff, what we do with our children that are working a case plan towards tribal reunification while they're with their foster parents, anything that the tribe is putting on that is culturally relevant for them, we make sure that the information is passed along so that the foster parents can have the children participate in those things, whether it be something that Michelle's group is putting on to encourage the cultural relevance, the connection to kin, culture, and community, things that are going on with the festival or the pageant or within the things that are happening here on campus. We make sure that that information is passed along either through the visit with the parents or a visit with the foster parents. So we make sure that they have all of the information that's necessary to be able to participate. Thank you.
Steve Wani is our program manager for our state reunification group, so he can speak to our state custody children.
Good afternoon. Stephen Wani, Muskogee Creek Nation Children and Family Services. I am the manager for our state reunification and permanency unit.
Our unit handles all the children who are in the custody of DHS in and out of the reservation. I really can't add anything else to what the others have said. Most of our kids, unfortunately, whenever we get involved, a lot of times they really don't know they're eligible or enrolled with the tribe because a lot of them, again, are out of the reservation. It is our job to educate them on that whenever we do get to know them, know the family, and know the courts, and provide them with additional information that they can receive here at the tribe. So we also allow conversations with them whenever we do our home visits. We do encourage foster parents to bring them to the tribe, get involved with other tribal things that we do have here at the nation. So if there's any questions that you may have of me, I'll be more than happy to answer those for you.
A team that I've neglected to mention, and right now is the intake team. And right now, the intake team is under the family protection team. And one of the changes that we will be making in our reorganization is to really strengthen that group, because that team is responsible for gathering that first information, and really it's important that they do a good job of gathering all the information so that appropriate determinations are made about whether these are Muskogee children or not. They are also the group many times that's taking information from individuals who may be reporting abuse or neglect. And so in our reorganization, we will be making that a separate team with a coordinator who will report to the director, who will report to me. I think that will help me know better about what is coming in, and I think that will allow that group to also specialize a bit more so that they can increase their skills in getting that information. But I did forget to mention them, but they are a really critical part of our program.
Other questions for Ms. Davis?
Madam Chair, I have a comment.
Okay, Representative Gouge.
I appreciate the answers you're providing. That the commission, there was a commission that was established, I want to say early part of the year or late last year, and that was one of the recommendations about creating the intake separate to get more information and be independent of doing that. So I like the idea that you're following what the commission's recommendations are.
Thank you.
The reason I brought up the cultural values is because it is very important that our children become familiar or aware, even if they may not come from a culturally sensitive home.
Yes.
They need to be aware that they belong to something bigger than themselves.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you, Representative Gouge.
Madam Chair, I just have a couple of questions.
Yes.
Maybe more, I don't know, but right now I have two. One, since McGirt has sort of stepped everything up and has moved us in several new directions, are you fully staffed, or how many staff were you assigned? Because I know that we saw grants come through here and we approved them for so many positions. So how many positions were you funded for? How many have been filled? And how many people have come through your department and have left?
Okay. So right now, as of today, we have 37 filled positions, and we have 27 positions that are vacant. And several of those positions we have posted, and they have expired. And we have reposted, and they have expired. And in talking, with folks, and in talking with some of the other tribes that are impacted by that McGirt ruling, with the reservations. One of the challenges is that our pay is not competitive. There are other, tribes that are also looking for those employees. And the state of Oklahoma is also looking for those employees. And so we will be asking for a supplemental to help us increase our pay, both to recruit new staff coming in and also to retain the staff that we have. We think that, I think that may be one of our challenges, is getting, is being able to draw people. There's competition.
I know that in this field, the burnout rate is pretty high, just like it is
Yes.
with, correctional officers and with people that work in the criminal justice field as well. My next question is, yesterday I was with a family that was going through the court system yesterday, and I'm amazed at the confusion that is in that lobby. And I just stood there and just observed. I didn't intervene. I could have, I guess, if I wanted to, but I didn't. I
Right.
just observed. And I have a deep feeling for our citizens that come up here and they're totally confused about what's the next step. What's the expectations of what's going to happen?
Yes.
And so for me, when someone comes to this point to where they come to Children and Family Services, just walk me through what happens. If I were to come to you and say, I have guardianship over my grandchildren,
Yes.
and I'm fighting to keep them, and the biological father now decides to step in and wants custody. So, and I'm not sure who the caseworker is. I'm not sure who I'm supposed to go to or what questions to ask. How do you help those individuals, especially if they're grandparents that may not know the questions to ask? How does your department help our citizens work through that process?
Right. Well, I think that is one of the reasons that our intake team is really critical. And because, like I said, that is who is usually the first contact, or maybe the first contact for families. And I think the other part of that, and I don't know certainly what the exact situation that you're talking about, but there are situations that are not necessarily Children and Family Services to take care of. It may be a social services issue. It may be something that needs to go to there for resources. Our role is to protect children and strengthen families when there is abuse or neglect and danger of those children coming out of the home, or there's been a need identified and we can provide some prevention services to help them. So sometimes, depending on the case, we certainly always want to help. And we want to be knowledgeable about if we are not the agency or the program to help get those folks to the right place. I don't know if that helps or not.
Okay. I'm glad you sort of enlightened me in that area. The other part is there have been some families that can't find you.
That can't find me.
Yeah, and you mentioned yesterday that y'all been working. Some are teleworking, and there's some that are over on Mission Street.
Right.
Nobody seems to know where you're at.
Well, right now our community services building is not open.
Right.
It is not open. We do have the mission office. I have some workspace that's over in the Macomb building. That's where I physically am. But I have my phone, and I have my cell phone, I have my work phone. So if someone is looking for me specifically, I certainly need to know that.
Okay. Okay. Is it posted over there where they can find you on on the building that's been vacated?
I don't know. It probably isn't, and that is probably something that we can do. Now, for me, like I said, we share, like I said, I was displaced, and I had 2 program managers who were displaced. And so we are sharing some workspace in the Macomb building over in Elder Services.
Okay.
So I'm not quite sure. I'll have to think about that and maybe speak to our cabinet about how to remedy that if that's a problem.
Okay. Okay. Thank you. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Representative Marshall. Are there other questions? I know working, if your office was flooded and you've had to displace or move your staff around, it's not an
Yes.
ideal situation to work with, but people do need to locate you. And I guess that's what my question was going to be. How is your communication when you're split up like that? If some employees are at home, some people are in other offices, some people are wherever I guess wherever you put them.
Well, yes. So my team, my direct team that I supervise is my leadership team, which are the program managers and the office coordinator. And so I know where they are. I know that I can reach them. I can reach them by phone. I can reach them by email. My expectation, of course, for program managers who are overseeing their staff is that they also have that, where they know where their staff are.
So it's up to your program managers to communicate with their staff. Not you don't communicate with anyone lower than your.
Oh, I do communicate with other staff, but in terms of like knowing whether a particular staff is teleworking or whether they're in the office, that is what I meant when I said with leadership. But the leadership, the program managers provide direct supervision to their staff.
Do you have regular performance evaluations for your staff?
That is something that I need to work on. I will be honest with you. That is something, like I said, I came in December, so I'm coming up on a year here in a few months. But I will tell you that we do have regular meetings. I have a Monday morning check-in meeting with the program, with the Children and Family Services leadership team. So that is kind of my way of checking in, and that's also a time for us to check in with each other. But I'm sure that, like I said, I have not done performance evaluations, and that is something that I need to take care of.
Because you indicated you're going to ask for supplemental in your budget for pay increases.
What?
For pay increases?
Yes.
So how's that going to be addressed?
Well, I think that is probably something, if we were going to increase pay, on a regular basis, that probably should be part of an evaluation, or to give a merit increase. I don't have that in place, and we hadn't really had the funds to do that, to be honest. The supplemental that we will be requesting is really to kind of bring folks up to where other tribes, other agencies are paying.
You have quite a few vacancies.
Yes.
That's what I was going to ask. How do you go by recruiting people? How do you get people? And how long does it take to recruit them and get people in there?
Well, I mean, we work with HR, and I think that they do their regular how they post positions and advertise positions. And I know that we have had some discussions in-house about looking at some other options, some other ways to do that. There's the NICWA, the National Indian Child Welfare Association, who could probably help us in advertising. There's the Oklahoma Indian Child Welfare Association, who could help us in posting. We have, and of course, the Administration of Children and Families could also help. We can do that. And we can try that and see if that gets us, some additional applicants. But that has been ongoing discussion within our programs to try to, come up with ways to get staff.
Thank you.
I will say that another challenge that we have is space. Even when we have the community services building, especially if we are able to bring on the folks that we want to bring on and need to bring on, we do not have all of the office space that we need within the community services building and the satellite office on Mission Street. And so one of the action items that we'll be working on is trying to find additional space and also looking at trying to see if we can locate staff throughout the reservation. We have a large reservation, and sometimes, especially with family protection and some of our other promoting safe and stable families, some of those is problematic because sometimes the family is located, maybe at the southern part of the reservation, and especially in child protection. Sometimes that may cause us to not be able to get there as quickly as we could. I think that would also kind of help us with local relationships as well if we could have staff located throughout the reservation. So those are some of the things that we want to work on.
Thank you, Ms. Davis. Are there any other questions from council in attendance? Representative Golden?
Yes, thank you. Thank you, Madam Chair. I have a question because I have quite a few concerns about our children and their protection. I've looked in our code, and then I just got this agreement, but where does it say that the DHS and the state police can go into a family home on the reservation, on our reservation, and take their children?
And I know that we have some people from the Attorney General's office here. We do have an agreement, intergovernmental agreement, and I think that was provided, that does allow for there to be, that does allow the Muskogee Nation to defer a case to the state for investigation and action. Our reality is that we don't have the capacity right now, even if we were fully staffed, to be able to take care of all of those. And that's why that intergovernmental agreement is necessary. And when we say within the reservation, I think, there's trust land within the reservation, and then there's land within the reservation that may be state land. And I think, so I'm not sure which you are referring to.
Well, actually, I'm talking about our reservation and our sovereignty status.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
And so I'm wondering, and I don't see it, where does it say to our Indian families for their protection of their children. You said that you're not always available. So when the state comes in and takes their children on the reservation, do they have to tell anybody about it? How does
Yes,
Creek
they-
Nation, or when does Creek Nation Indian Child Welfare intervene, or can they?
I believe that certainly the Muskogee Creek Nation can intervene in those cases, and I believe that in many times Muskogee Creek Nation does intervene. I believe that you heard Mr. Wani talk about his responsibilities as the state reunification program manager and his team and what they do. So those are decisions that are made, and those are decisions that are also made in coordination with the Attorney General's office.
Okay, it's kind of a follow-up from what Ms. Marshall had said about children and their families going to court, going to the state courts. And if state DHS has taken children in maybe an emergency order of protection, they go to state court. They don't bring them to Creek Nation court. And so in order for the Indian family to know what their rights are and to understand what the process is, and they can't find you, they lose their children, and it seems like they never get them back. So that's what I'm talking about.
Okay.
How does Creek Nation intervene in that process to help that family reunify, especially if there were maybe a mistake?
So I believe, like I said, we do have a state reunification team whose role it is to monitor and participate in those cases involving Muskogee children that are involved in state court. I will also say that we have regular routine staffings with the Attorney General's office to staff those cases and make decisions about what should happen. Should that be a case that gets transferred to tribal court? And there are things that have to be looked at with those decisions as well. And one of the decisions that we have to look at as CFSA in making a recommendation, and again, CFSA does not have the authority to transfer cases, but we always look at, can we meet the needs of the parents? Can we provide, do we have a placement for those children? And are the parents agreeable and are they willing for the case to be transferred to tribal court? Because with the Indian Child Welfare Act, both parents are supposed to be in agreement for the case to go to tribal court. So those are things that we look at on a routine basis. Like I said, even though Children and Family Services does not have the authority to do that, we do look at recommendations. And I know that we have folks here from the Attorney General's office who might provide additional information.
Thank you, Ms. Davis. Another comment.
Good afternoon, Council Rep. Joetta Topaw. I'm one of the Assistant Attorney Generals for the Muskogee Creek Nation. I currently work with our Juvenile Division. I'm happy to try to answer any other questions too as far as the legal side goes. I handle our tribal cases, the cases that we handle here before upstairs in our tribal court here. We do have the state cases, which I think that is the question being asked by Representative Golden this afternoon, excuse me. And any child that is initially picked up, sometimes they don't know right offhand that they are a tribal citizen. We don't take just Creek citizens. It was for any child who's eligible for membership in a federally recognized tribe. So we do, of course, preference our Creek Nation, Muskogee Creek Nation children and families, of course, but we do also have other families and children in our tribal court that are other tribes or eligible for membership in other tribes besides the Muskogee Creek Nation. So when the state initially initiates the pickup and then finds out that the child is a member of the federally recognized tribe, and within our reservational boundaries, they have to give notice to our intake unit. And they will also send the attorneys, the district attorneys, will also send notice a lot of times to my colleague, Shanna Bergen, who works in our office and works on the state side. There's so many. We have an attorney on our state side, attorney on our tribal side for these cases. And then we do staff these to determine how and when we transfer those cases into our tribal court. And there are a lot of things and factors we look at. And a lot of times we do have to consider elements such as transportation. If we have a family who's living in Pittsburgh County that has no car, it's not going to be real feasible for us to expect them to be coming to Okmulgee, to our tribal court. We're setting them up for failure already. Now, in a perfect world, we would have all these positions filled. We could have caseworkers go and provide transportation, or we would have, the nation would have a transportation unit that they could go pick up these families, but we're not there yet. That's something we should obtain for our 5-year goal, our 10-year goal, so we can get all these families in. But that's things we look at. Do they have transportation? Do the families want to come in? Sometimes we have families down in Wawoka. We have some in Creek, Bristow area, and the problem then becomes if we transfer them in, sometimes it messes up their services. They get services through Creoaks there locally or something, and they don't want to do that because they're already established and working well. But even if we don't transfer it in, we still have eyes and ears going to the state court through our Attorney General's office, through our CFSA office. So I really don't want you to think that any of these children or family are out there unassisted or don't have notice, or that the tribe is not keeping eyes on these families and these children. So I hope that answers your question. If not, please feel free to come over to the AG's office and we can discuss more in depth together. I invite you over, any council rep. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Ms. Topa. Are there any other questions from council or from the committee?
Madam Chair, I have a question.
Yes, Representative Gouge.
Maybe Ann can answer this when she gets down here. Does Children and Family Services have the authority to file an intervention once we identify that there's a Creek child in custody?
Not at this, to file an intervention?
Yes.
Not at this time. I believe that goes through the Attorney General's office.
Okay. Would it expedite anything if your office was able to file an intervention immediately?
Yes. I think especially on those cases that are out of state.
I'm aware that there's certain markers that identify that you have the ability to intervene in a case. Is there anything in place or legislation coming in to correct anything, or should it be maintained through the Attorney General's office? They determine when they intervene.
I think that is something that we have been talking with the Attorney General's office about. And I think when we talk about intervention versus transfer, because we can intervene
yes,
much more than we can transfer. So, but yes, I believe that that is something that we have had some conversation about, especially as we're looking at having a program that that would take care or would work with our out-of-state citizens.
Yeah, I agree, because transferring is a bigger issue, because then you have to have the foster home to do that.
Yes.
Then you have to, if there's a family, if it's a family, you still have to determine you can approve them as a foster home. So it's a matter of resources to transfer
Yes.
a case back. And then again, as AG's office made reference to, it's the distance they are at. And if there's family in that location or in that state, then why transfer back here if the family is located in another state? It defeats the purpose of trying to do visitation and towards
Yes.
reunification. But to intervene in a case is a whole different issue. And once the court, that court or that state court notifies you, how quickly of a response can you file an intervention if you have to go through the AG's office? You know,
Excuse me, I didn't quite.
how long does it take you to file an intervention?
To respond to an intervention now, like in state court,
Yes.
we respond very quickly, I believe.
And that is how long?
Well,
A day, a week, or?
Well, I think, and when we say, intervention, if we determine that that is a Muskogee child through intake and we've received notice, depending upon what stage of the proceeding it is, we assign a worker immediately.
Okay.
And then work on getting the intervention, just so that we can participate in child safety meetings. We want to be involved as soon as we can.
I have experience in doing this kind of thing. And sometimes the state or the state agencies outside of Oklahoma will not work with you until you become a party to the case.
Right.
It goes
Yes.
back to when can you intervene?
Yes. Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you, Representative Gouge. Thank you, Ms. Davis. We appreciate you coming and giving us this report and for the questions that were offered.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Okay, we're going to move on to an update on ARAP, Acting Secretary of the Nation in Commerce, Mr. Jeff Fife, Policy Analyst, Mr. Zachariah Harjo. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon, Madam Chair, committee, members of council, and guests. I have general numbers. Hopefully, this is ARPA and not ARAP.
Supposed to be ARPA.
Sorry, April.
We caught that too. We just now caught it.
I have DA1 expenditures. I have that data. There are still some open cases. It's near 150 million dispersed. DA2, it too is right at 150 million dispersed. Vaccine, right at 15.5 million. Available balance as of 8/18, not including any monies that are in DA1 or 2 that are not expended, is right at 23 million. There are some encumbered funds related to some projects that I would defer to Patricia or Mr. Harjo if there are specific questions related to that.
You want us to ask Mr. Harjo? He's on the line.
Pardon?
Mr. Harjo is on the line, online.
Yes.
Mr. Harjo, do you have any comments?
Yeah, can everyone hear me?
Yes, yes, sir. Go ahead.
Meadow Council, sorry I'm on travel to another engagement, but Mr. Five covered most of the numbers at a high level. What we discovered was the previous ARPA update back in March that was given by a former controller, Clay Darnell, was inaccurate to a degree in that I think that was estimated about 160 million remaining in ARPA funding. However, that didn't include or that included all of the remaining funding that had not been spent. A good portion of it had been already allocated, and the number that Mr. Fife referenced of 23 million is the number that is totally untouched from the original SLFRF allocation of 493 million. And of that 23 million, I anticipate about 12 to 15 million is pending in upcoming proposed legislation from programs that did not have a chance to propose their ARPA legislation or investments as requested over the past several months since March. And then, of course, we anticipate a sizable amount returning to that kind of ARPA general fund from DA1 and DA2. So overall, we're looking at, I would say roughly, if we're being, I guess, more cautious in our estimation, about 65 million returning, well, actually more than that. I would say on the order of about 80 million returning from DA1, DA2, and the vaccine incentive, in addition to that 23 million that has never been obligated from our original allocation. Also, in the report that Mr. Darnell had generated back in March, I do believe that Patricia and I have discussed this before as well, that total number included all of the separate distributions through the ARPA funding that the nation had received that should not have been included in there. For instance, the 493 million that I referenced through SLFRF is separate from the ERAP funds that we received, so the Emergency Rental Program funds, and is also separate from the Homeowners Assistance Fund, and also separate from the distributions that Health would have received through any sort of ARPA funding distributed by BIA or IHS. So that 493 million is solely the nation's allocation through SLFRF, and those are the figures that we're talking about. But upon that most recent update on the ARPA numbers, I don't think that there was any delineation in finance between any of those accounts. So it was all kind of one general estimation. So now, if council wants a further breakdown of that, I know that Patricia and I can work on providing a more detailed budgetary breakdown of the numbers that actually do remain completely unobligated, and it hovers about 23 million, and then what we anticipate being returned totally after all of the pending applications from DA1 and DA2 are completed.
Thank you, Mr. Harjo.
Madam Chair,
Yes, Representative Gouch.
half that I did not understand.
I know, it was kind of hard to hear you. You were speaking pretty fast.
Could he provide that in writing, those numbers?
Sure. Yeah, we can do that.
Excellent. Okay, we have a question from Representative Marshall.
Mr. Harjo, some of the numbers that you gave, was it the same number? Were some of those numbers the same as what Mr. Fife offered? Or
yes. Yes. So Mr. Fife offered up the figure of $23 million that has been completely unobligated from our original SLFRF allocation of 493 million. So that number is accurate. So that's just what we have never touched either through legislation or at any point since we received those initial allocations from Treasury.
Okay.
1 second.
Thank you, Mr. Harjo. And then I have a question for Mr. Fife. Quickly, could you just do those first ones? Like you had the 150 that was dispersed and a 15.5 million was for vaccines.
Yes.
Could you do I didn't get the earlier numbers that you had mentioned.
Direct Assistance 1 is right at 151.5 million.
Okay.
And there's still, keep in mind, there's still some that are being reworked and potentially addition. That number could change is what I'm getting at.
Okay.
DA2 is 149.7 million. And the vaccine incentive was 15.3 million.
Okay.
And that was as of 9/6/22.
Okay. Okay. Thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
Are there other questions from the committee? Mr. Fife, there are still some people that haven't been paid, correct? Do you know when that will happen, or can you give them some kind of an idea?
I am in the loop on those claimants that have not been paid. They do not come directly to me most of the time. They go through Miss Carmen, and I get updates as to different steps and reasons, and I don't have a exact date of when a claimant may get paid.
Understand. Is there a problem? What's the holdup for these people?
What I see, some involved deceased persons. There's been allegations of mail theft. It's a wide range of reasons. Some have been people missed the enrollment deadline, and there's requests of accept my citizenship so we can participate. That's some of the most common reasons I see.
I had just heard from some individuals and citizens that it just takes a long time for that last payment. They didn't know why it takes so long. You know, they sent everything in that was required. They hadn't been asked for anything else, but they still haven't received their payments.
If you would forward those when you get them, we can address those.
Because they can call. Can they call the office, or will somebody respond by phone?
Sure, they can call, or if you take their information, email it. Either way.
I'd prefer they call. Yeah.
Okay.
Good. Okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Are there any other questions? Are there any questions from council in attendance or online? Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Fife. Thank you, Mr. Harjo. Okay, we're on to the update on the College of the Muskogee Nation programs. Dr. Monty Randall.
HEW Committee Committee, National Council members. Widow for having me today and for allowing me to provide an update. I will be given an update on the College of the Muskogee Nation and the different departments that we have: student affairs, academic affairs, enrollment management, business affairs, and executive affairs. So student affairs, I'll start with that one, and I'll give you some updates from that department. Overall, CMN, we are operating under only one COVID-19 guideline at the time, and that is that all housing students must be fully vaccinated to reside on campus, with only a medical waiver authorized by a licensed physician. So that's the only guideline that we have regarding COVID-19, is that all residents of CMN housing must be fully vaccinated. And the only exception is a medical waiver. No other COVID-19 restrictions are in effect on campus. We have 70 housing students on campus out of a maximum of 84. We'll have student senate elections coming up this fall, and we have the following student organizations on campus: Tribal Leadership Circle, Phi Theta Kappa, which is our honor society, and the ACES student organization, which is the American Indian Science and Engineering Society. That is a national organization. And then we have a student housing organization. Student Affairs recently completed a Raven Ready new student orientation with approximately 60 new students out of 90 new students. So that's a good success for us. We are preparing for the Ahec, which that is the American Indian Higher Education Consortium, and that is all 35 tribal colleges in the United States. So the Ahec Student Conference in March of 23 in Albuquerque, New Mexico. So we will be taking however many students that qualify to the Ahec Student Conference. So the last one was in 2019, and that was also in Albuquerque. So we've kind of picked up the schedule. It rotates by region of a host of tribal colleges that come together, and so we continued the rotation, and so it's still in Albuquerque this year. And the last time we went, we took about 50 students to the Ahec Student Conference. So we are anticipating another large group. We usually get a lot of participation from our students and from our faculty and staff who do a lot of extra work to get those students prepared for competitions such as Knowledge Bowl, Science Bowl, speech competitions, basketball, volleyball, archery, just a variety of different competitions. So it's usually a really good event. So we're planning for that. And we're also preparing for the Ahec Student Basketball Tournament, and that'll be in South Dakota this year, or I'm sorry, in March of 23. So we'll be taking a men's and women's team to the basketball tournament. So again, in 2019, that was the last time we had that tournament, and it was we did really good. Our men's team took second place in that tournament, so we're hoping to have continued success in that area. Academic affairs, we have 12 full-time faculty members. We have 1 Native American Studies, 1 Tribal Services, 1 Gaming, 1 Criminal Justice, 1 Natural Resources, and 7 General Education instructors. So the General Studies program is our highest enrollment by program. So that's our General Associate degree in General Studies that has the highest number of students in that program. We have those 6 associate degrees and 4 certificate programs in gaming, Muskogee language, and that one is also offered online, Muskogee language teaching, and tribal leadership. We have those 4 certificate degrees. Academic affairs has been registered for our second cohort program with the Higher Learning Commission Assessment Academy. So we completed that Assessment Academy last year, and then we got accepted again for another round of the Assessment Academy. So within the Higher Learning Commission, the assessment of student learning is one of the major aspects that they look at. So for us to continue on with the Assessment Academy for another 4-year term, this is a really good program for us, and that'll help us as we continue on. So that first year, we finished up with our mission-focused student learning outcomes, and now we're going back over our program outcomes. So that's all of the bachelor's, or I'm sorry, all the associate degrees and those certificates. So we're looking at those program outcomes this round in our Assessment Academy. Co-curricular assessments are also a major part of our assessment plan, and we are anticipating to begin the process of accreditation of the Native American Studies program as a bachelor's degree as part of our long-term strategic plan. So, and I'll talk a little bit more about that as I move on. Enrollment management, fall 2022, we have 252 individual students, and that equals a total of 2,345 credits generated. So this is one of our largest enrollments since we've been in existence. Admissions is moving to add an online admissions process. So we're working on that online admissions to also include our housing application. The Academic Learning Center offers tutoring services. Our student success is focused on outreach. retention, and we'll begin to look at career services. Financial aid is starting their workshops on assisting students with the American Indian College Fund application. So that is specifically for tribal college students. So that is the TCU scholarship. And so that is just for tribal colleges. And so we assist our students with filling out that application. So we hold several workshops throughout the term to bring students in and help them complete those applications. Business affairs, we are completing a campus Wi-Fi project. So right now we're on the tail end of completing that project and having Wi-Fi around the entire campus. So that's been a project that started last fall, and we're about to complete that. Our natural resources building in the northwest corner of our campus, we have started that parking lot. So that building opened up a few years ago, and we've been waiting on a parking lot. So we're very excited about that. We've got a parking lot coming. So the bookstore, we will be unveiling our new Raven mascot image, and that'll be at this year's Fall Fest. So September 28th. Mark that on your calendars. Come out and spend the day and the afternoon with us, and we'll have some new images to unveil on our Raven mascot. So we're excited about that. And then that'll also be part of our new merchandising that we're selling in our bookstore. And then our Core Values Cafe is back open at full capacity. So we are serving those meals to all of our students and all of our guests on campus. And then finally, in business affairs, we are anticipating the GMP for our exhibit hall, lecture hall. That is our third building on our master site plan. And we anticipate a groundbreaking ceremony in the next week or 2 weeks. So we will keep you all informed on a groundbreaking ceremony. Executive affairs, we've been engaged in developing our branding guide, and that is part of this new building logo that you may have seen, our new Raven mascot that we'll be unveiling. And so that is to increase our visibility in our communities and even on our campus to some extent. So it's about increasing our visibility. We've also been focused on Nini Hijida, and that is our strategic planning. That's been going on for over a year now. We've met with all of our departments, and so we've been going over Yikchi, Ihapitki, Tiktungi, and Untlaba. And so that is our strength, weakness, opportunities, and threats. So we've translated that SWOT analysis into a YIDA analysis, as we call it. So Yikchi, Ihapitki, Tiktungi, and Untlaba. We've met with students and our alumni to create themes as we move forward. We have a strategic planning committee that is assisting with the guidance of the planning process. Each department is now taking that YIDA analysis back to their staff members as a way to set their goals for growth. Some goals have been identified by our mission and our purpose, some by the president, and the YIDA analysis will help them discover areas as objectives to meet these goals and others that they may determine. So as a result, we will have a Choga Hochechka Imalosada, and that is our strategic plan document by the end of this year, and we'll begin implementation at the beginning of 2023. So our major initiatives that we've addressed, that we've identified in this strategic plan is we want to move to semester terms by fall 2024. So currently we are on trimesters. So that is a fall, spring, and a summer of equal terms. And so a semesters will be primarily fall and spring, and we'll still have summer, but it'll be shortened. It'll be less classes and less weeks. So typically, right now we're on 3 equal 15-week terms. So that's the trimester system. If we go to semesters, when we go to semesters, it'll be a 16-week fall, a 16-week spring, and then an 8-week summer. So we are going to develop a recruitment plan and add a recruiter. We're going to reach 400 students in 5 years. We're going to develop a career services plan and add a program and staff members. We're going to develop a marketing and communications plan and staff that as well. Develop a donor relations plan. Develop our athletics program, and accredit the Native American Studies to a bachelor's degree. Mado, I'll answer any questions if you have any.
Thank you, Dr. Randall. Are there questions for Dr. Randall? Any questions from council in attendance or online?
Madam Chair, I have a question.
Yes, Representative Gouge.
It sounds like you're growing and moving quickly. Is there a need for more housing over there?
Yes, absolutely. Along with these initiatives, it's our plan. Our strategic plan is about sustainable growth. So yes, we need a lot. We need more buildings. We're already out of space. Along with housing, that would be for the students, but we also need offices for staff members. We need more classrooms. So we're looking at, and this was my kind of my last resort. I didn't want to go this way, but we're looking at module buildings, bringing in some higher end module buildings and kind of putting those on the north end of our campus, so we can add some staff, some offices and some classrooms. Now that doesn't help the housing, but as we continue to grow, we're going to need more staff members. So we need more offices. We need more staff members. So the short answer is yes.
The reason I'm asking is because I received a few calls, not a lot, but a few calls saying Muskogee citizens who want to be students from out of state want to come here, but there's not enough housing. So it made me kind of wonder, are you missing enrollment people to enroll because of housing?
Housing is a big issue. Now, for our housing, we do have a preference for Muskogee Creek citizens and by their geographical distance from the campus. So a Muskogee Creek citizen that lives out of state, that would put them at the top of that list. So I would let's look at those and see if there is something that we're missing on that. But we do have preference for Muskogee citizens who live geographically further away from the campus.
Okay, thank you.
Dr. Randall, how many Muskogee language teachers do you have?
Altogether, five language teachers. So one full-time, and then at least 4 to 5 on adjunct. So that varies. So the adjunct varies, but I believe right now we have five teachers.
So do they get a certification from the college if they?
As an eminent scholar, yes, we certify them. And what that relates to is our accreditation. So with the Higher Learning Commission, so we take into account their knowledge and experience with the language. And so in those areas of cultural knowledge, we can determine a person to be an eminent scholar, and then we certify them.
Thank you. Are there any other questions? Dr. Randall? Thank you, Dr. Randall. We appreciate your report. Hello.
Madam.
Okay, we're now down to the health systems update. Secretary Sean Terry.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Good afternoon, committee. The monthly report I've given you in your booklet, and once again, there's just a whole lot of information on each facility, and I won't go through all of it. I'm just going to hit a couple of highlights. One of the things that I've been getting a lot of questions from the public on right now is the status of the vaccine booster, the bivalent boosters. We just got everything loaded into the system today. And so they may already be vaccinating as we speak right now, but I suspect by tomorrow, all of the new boosters for the COVID vaccine should be ready to go. If you want to know if you should be taking this booster, even though you've had other booster shots from Moderna or Pfizer or others, you can do this as long as you've been 2 months from getting a booster shot. And the difference with this booster is that it's specifically targeted for the 2 Omicron variants that are out there. And so all of the original Moderna and Pfizer vaccine was geared towards Alpha and Delta variant. This is specifically geared towards Omicron. So we would advise you to do that. One of the other differences, if you had a monoclonal antibody infusion in the past, we asked that you could wait 6 months to be boosted, and there's no contraindication with this vaccine. So if you have taken a monoclonal antibody infusion, you can also get a COVID-19 booster for that. And so that's what's going on with the vaccine right now. Our public health activities, we're going to start the flu mobile in October. It'll include stops all around the nation, and we'll be posting that schedule out very, very soon, and we'll make sure everyone has a copy of that. One of the exciting things that I get questioned on often, and that I'm glad to say that we're going to be able to bring back on October the 18th, is going to be the pink party. And we haven't had to have a pink party in the last couple of years, so I'm excited that we finally get to have that again. In our new Council Oak facility, we have brought on Dr. Kavita Shaw. She's an internal medicine physician, boarded in both internal medicine and pediatrics, and she's had more than 7 years working with diabetes and pre-diabetes patients. And we did, I think that I informed you guys a month or two ago that we had about 1,600 patients that had a hemoglobin A1C over 9. She's going to be specifically focused on those uncontrolled diabetics, and we're going to try to throw the kitchen sink at that project. Some of our facility projects, we've started and selected the architect for a new Sapulpa replacement facility. That facility is going to be roughly about 80,000 square feet is where we have it sized right now. We're still trying to identify some land for that project. We're doing some renovations at Council Oak to get our hotel rooms up and going. We're going to have about 10 rooms ready in the next couple of weeks for guests and visitors to have there. So we're excited about that. We're doing a renovation over in the medical center on the Hope unit. So we have a lot of renovations happening right now. One of the unique partnership things that we did this last month, was we met with the executive leadership team, the chief's office, the attorney general, Light Horse, as well as other cabinet folks to discuss the roles of each department plays in a mental health crisis. I think that several of you heard of some of the mental health issues, crises that we had in the emergency rooms last month, and there wasn't any clear path to what happens with these guys if they're homicidal and also suicidal and also needing law enforcement detainment, and they're needing medication. It becomes something that we're really going to have to call an entire crisis team into. So we've started formulating the crisis response team that's going to bring everybody to the table so that we can effectively deal with these issues. And that's all I have from the big things from this month. I think Ms. Crawford's on the line to talk about our finances of last month, which we had a good month last month as well. So Brenda, do you want to say anything?
Yes, sir. Good afternoon, Madam Chair and Committee. You have the financial reports for July and the year-to-date in your packet, but I would like to give a brief overview and answer any questions that you may have. Can everyone hear me okay?
Yes, ma'am, we can hear you.
Okay, thank you. As you're aware, we began our implementation of Epic back in March, and we are now seeing an increase in our productivity in our clinics, along with the patient services at Council Oak, which results in an increase in patient revenues. And so we're now beginning to see the benefit of that implementation. One of the benefits of Epic is that it does allow us to monitor our third-party contracts with insurance companies to better ensure compliance in regards to their payments, and also the ability to track their denials so that we can follow up on those better. These are just a few of the things that are going to help us better manage our third-party revenues and collections. The clinics and the pharmacy revenues were at 10.3 million in July, and hospital services at 12. Our total cash collections in August hit an all-time high for us in the Department of Health of 19.3 million, compared to 10 million in August of 21. So for the year to date, we have an increase in patient collections of 65.8 million. So we're very, very pleased with these reports and very pleased with the outcome, and owe a lot to our people who are diligently working to collect the funds that we're entitled to. Does anyone have any questions regarding the financial report?
Any questions for Ms. Crawford? Any questions from council in attendance or online? Sounds like a good report, Ms. Crawford. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Oh, wait, just a minute. We have a question. Representative Golden.
Yes, thank you, Chairman. On the amount that you're collecting, does that go back into services, or what do you do with that? And how do you divvy it up with your different?
So because all of our hospitals are community hospitals, so we have both the rehab hospital, Muskogee Hospital, Okemah Hospital. What we do is we budget all of our Indian Health Service revenue, the funds that we receive from Indian Health Service, that we budget our clinic operations with. And since those are all just native-only facilities, we do that. And with third-party funds, we budget all of the hospitals with. So that's where budgeting goes to. And then for instance, last year we budgeted, I don't even remember what the total last year for third-party was. Let's just say we budgeted 10 million a month. I don't know what it was. 12, was it 12 million a month?
It was 12.
Okay. So we take 12 million a month and we budget all of the hospitals on that. Anything that goes above that goes into the savings account. And then the next year, we bring that back in and we would bring a budget back in. So this year, we know we're going to have a whole lot bigger budget because we've got Council Oak and we've got all the programs to deal with. And so Council Oak will begin to fund with those third-party increases and whatever services that the clinics are needing to add to. And so that's how we sort of balance that. But that's the easiest way to explain it is we try to keep the Indian Health facilities funded with Indian Health dollars, and everything else we do is out of third party.
Okay, and so for the clinic like Wetumpka, who appears to be understaffed and under budgeted since, I want to say 2016, when they cut all the people out, that's never been back up to full staff or full working. And so I just wonder how that fits into that whole budget picture.
Yeah. Well, we restarted. I restarted Wetumpka when I came. Wetumpka was shut down when I came here. We restarted Wetumpka, and we started with a nurse practitioner and pharmacy and lab and X-ray. During the pandemic, when all of the staffing shortages starting to happen, we had to keep Okemah up and running. And the staff shortage said that we had to move our X-ray and lab staff from Wetumpka, and we moved it up to Okemah just so that we could keep the lab services going 24/7. So I'm in total agreement. It's time for us to start looking at trying to restart some of those services in Wetumpka. And we've already started that process. But staff shortages, and when you look across the nation, lab folks are one of the biggest shortages that we had ever since the pandemic has been there. So even if we had phlebotomy, we're going to still have to transport labs to Wetumpka, but we are ramping that back up.
Thank you, Representative Golden. Thank you, Mr. Terry, and thank you, Ms. Crawford.
You're welcome.
We are down to announcements. Are there any announcements from the committee? I have one. BF&J committee will meet tomorrow at 3 o'clock, Thursday. If there are no other announcements, we're down to adjournment and benediction, and I will ask Representative Crawford if she will do our benediction, which will serve as our adjournment. Please stand if you're able. Amen. We are adjourned at 4:13. Mado.